The Lost Cosmonauts. This story takes place in one of the smallest denominators of time we commonly know. A minute. Doesn't sound like a lot, does it? Well, a lot can happen in a minute. One born a second and all that. Who I am is not important. Just know that I am a man. There you go. No more questions now. Let's continue. The year is 1960. Hold on, you say. I thought that the first man in space was in 1961. 12th of April, right? Sure, yes, that's the recorded date, when Yuri Gagarin orbited the Earth in his Vostok craft. This story refers to those who haven't been recorded. Faces without names, without records, their families shipped off to some Siberian hellhole for life. The price you pay for failure. One cosmonaut will enter space on this date. No one knows yet, and even the date when he first enters will be deliberately lost, sans the year. That way, if something goes wrong, the Soviet government can deny it. He straps himself in, and the technicians give the thumbs up as they check the untold amount of pressure valves and switches on the craft's skin. These men are sworn to secrecy. One false move, and the next paycheck they get will be a train ticket to the Gulag. Takeoff occurs as normal. He is guided through the takeoff procedure, his Vostok craft illuminating the sky like a blazing star, the observers in the command and control center staring on in awe as several tons of Russian metal extends its arms to the world. Hours, minutes, and seconds pass, and this man is the first one in space. He feels elation, pride, and a feeling of warmth in the cramped cabin of his Vostok. The ground control is very pleased as well, for Russia has finally won the space race. America will be shamefaced when the news gets out, thinks the cosmonaut. We shall call him, for sake of posterity and argument, Cosmonaut 1. Cosmonaut 1 looks around his craft, a single tear escaping his eyes as he stares at the world in front of him, continents and countries reduced to misshapen lumps of land on a marble in the deep blackness around him. But something goes wrong. The minute starts here. Cosmonaut 1 only realizes anything is wrong when the pleasant feeling of warmth turns to blazing agony. The craft is on fire. He kicks at the flames emanating from the main control unit, but to no avail. He pushes the hatch door open and pushes himself into the cold depths of space, seeing his craft burn to ashes behind him. But as he looks back, he notices the flames have stopped. Of course, the fire pyramid. Fire needs oxygen, and, well, none of that exists here. Suddenly, terror overtakes him. He is floating, no lifeline, no way back. Only then he realizes what he must do now. 30 seconds. It is better this way. I won't suffocate slowly. How long do I have? About half an hour of desperation. Reaching behind himself, Cosmonaut 1 flicks the quick-release valve of his air tanks and pulls out the hose. Immediately, he begins to choke with the lack of oxygen. He had not expected it to be this painful, this terrifying. But there is nothing he can do, nothing at all. He regrets his actions, wishing for his mother, wishing for the motherland. 15 seconds. He finally expires, his air depleted. It was covered up, all of it. Out of sight, out of mind, said the Soviet government. It is over. That is the story. It is not a good one, not a nice one. But before we go, there is one thing we did not discuss. Who started the fire? How? The answer is more clear than you think. No, it was not me. But did I tell you that Cosmonaut 1 was a convicted criminal, that the only reason he went to space was so that he would not surely be killed by firing squad? They promised him a new start, fame, fortune, freedom as well. But it was a lie, all of it. There is more to this tale, but alas, that is for another day, another time. On July 18th, 2020, NASA launched a new vessel. 6 astronauts boarded Goliath I and set off to prepare the first human colony on the Moon. The preparations were expected to take a year, but the vessel carried 6 months of additional food in case of emergency. Radio communication was possible only on the side of the Moon facing the Earth, so the astronauts were told to stay in this area to maintain contact. The astronauts had landed on the eastern border of the Serenitatis. This lunar mar was largely covered in basalt and held few craters, making it perfect for colonization. The goal of the astronauts was simple: map the area and blueprint the construction of buildings. The only real danger on the Moon was meteors striking it, as it was devoid of any atmosphere. An electronic journal of the day's events was to be sent back to NASA, along with any interesting photos or videos. Although it was to be seen if anything exciting could happen. It was the Moon, after all. The first few journals were fairly normal. The astronauts were right on schedule with the predicted progress. They wasted no time to blueprint the area. Everything in a normal town was to be in the future town: a grocery store, a school, a hospital, among other things. Of course, the supplies would need to be sent by other vessels. It wasn't their mission to build anything. Then, on the 17th of September that year, the daily report did not come. It was speculated that it had been forgotten, but it did not come the next day either. Radio communication was not successful with the astronauts. Attempts were only met with static. The radio tower was seen as working perfectly. It seemed that the astronauts were simply not within range of it. Several missing videos were later recovered from the site. The following is a description of each video. The astronauts were told to label their videos by date, following with numbers if more than one video was recorded that day. The first video is labeled appropriately as September 16th, 2020. It is around 10 minutes long and mostly spent examining small craters close to the border of the Mar. Near the end of the video, the astronaut talks about hearing scratching noises from the crater, but this wasn't audible. The journal sent to NASA for the 16th of September did not mention this noise. The second video is also labeled appropriately as September 17th, 2020. This video is roughly the same length of the previous video and similarly focused around craters, specifically the nearby Bessel crater. This is an exceptionally large crater, over 9 miles across and a mile deep. The plan was eventually to build a bridge across it. The astronauts begin to make notes of the crater when the scratching sound is heard again. This time, however, it is quite audible and appears to be coming from the basin of the crater. The sound becomes so loud it begins to irritate the astronauts. One of the men looks down over the edge to find the source of it. A force unseen by the camera suddenly pulls him into the crater. His screams are heard briefly before the footage is cut short. The third and final video is labeled Code 7700, Please Help. The date is unknown, but it can be assumed it is probably from the next day. It begins with an astronaut in an oxygen tent talking to the camera. He explains in a calm voice that he has been unable to contact the radio. He also explains how 2 of the astronauts have been horribly slaughtered. At this point, tears start to roll down his face, but he continues a calm tone. The scratching noise from the previous videos is heard suddenly and sharply. The camera is knocked to an adjacent wall of the tent, and we listen to the astronaut pleading, followed by a heavy thump. The man continues to plead and cry out for help, stating that he can't breathe. The camera is completely turned away from him, so what is attacking him cannot be seen. We see blood begin to splatter the adjacent wall. The man continues to scream for help and is now completely bawling. Blood splatters against the wall for a second time, alongside the sound of bones snapping and flesh being torn from them. His pleas for help suddenly stop and are reduced to just inane screaming and crying. As blood spatters again against the wall, a bit of brown liquid now mixes in with the bright red liquid. The tearing sound has since been replaced by that of squishing and sloshing. The only sound the man makes now is a quiet death rattle. Suddenly, he goes silent, and several of his organs are tossed near the direction of the wall. Coincidentally, the night of September 18th was a red moon. None of the bodies of the astronauts from Goliath I were ever fully recovered. Colonization of the moon has been postponed until further notice. The team sent to investigate the radio communication problems the astronauts were having refused to talk to the public. Of the 4-man repair team, 2 have committed suicide since returning to Earth. While the 3 videos were recovered, a photograph was also obtained. It is still unknown as to what it depicts.